just kind of want to have a laid-back conversation. And who are you and why are you here?
Okay, hey, I'm Teemu Kinos. I'm actually coming from Finland. We run a company called GetJenny, which is a platform that you can build chatbots on top of it. We basically build everything in-house. We work with a lot of insurance companies and banks in the region, and happy to be here.
Very cool. And yourself, sir?
My name is Rami Al-Karmi, and I wear two hats. I'm Chief Innovation Officer at Jordan Ahli Bank and CEO of our new subsidiary called Ahli Fintech.
Very cool. The topic of the panel today is technology in the customer journey. Can you guys tell me what was the worst customer experience that you guys have ever had? Or one of the worst customer experiences that you've ever had?
Well, I think there's two answers to this. Either I've been part of that from the bank side, because during my first years when I was a freshman in economic school, I worked as a bank clerk. Mm-hmm. So I might have been part of many bad customer experiences. But then on the same time, I remember changing a flight a few years back, and I was actually in Beirut, and I was accustomed to that. Okay, I can just go online and modify my Turkish airline ticket and pay online. No. I had to go all the way across the city to the office, bring physically the money, and get my new ticket. And that was like a half a day during the rush hour of the traffic.
Wow. Yourself, Rami?
No, there's lots of interesting experiences on that. But I would just summarize them in flights.
Yeah.
Telecoms, maybe.
Yeah.
So,
Telecoms
let's
are
not
the
go into
worst.
detail.
Yeah.
What was the best customer experience that you've ever had? Or one of the best customer experiences that you've ever had?
I love Apple stores, and I think Apple provides an amazing customer experience.
What do you like about it?
Well, they were able to transform the experience beyond a standard mobile shop. Put that aside. But being in there, doing everything you would like to do, including sitting there as if it's a cafe, meeting people, attending events, the workshops that they do, and what have you. Yet on the side, buy the products, test the products, being able to pick up the product off the shelf, scan it with your barcode, pay, and just leave without talking to anyone. The whole experience is just designed in an excellent...
The experience is designed.
Yeah.
Would you say that that's one of the key characteristics?
Of course.
Yourself?
I think there's one particular industry, fashion boutiques. You go there, like small boutiques, the first question might be, hey, do you want to have a coffee? You have a coffee, you start having a conversation, and like, hey, would you like to get some of our clothes? I'm like, sure, let's do this. And the funny thing about comparing that to e-commerce conversions is that 60% of the people who go to boutiques actually buy something.
Wow. Wow. Let's actually transition a little bit more to kind of get into the technology space. There's a lot of talk surrounding artificial intelligence. There's a lot of talk surrounding bots. What are these technologies and how scared should I be?
Okay, that was a kind of a multi-phase question.
Define AI, define bot.
Okay, there's a very simplistic way of describing artificial intelligence or any kind of intelligent machines. You have data and experiences on one hand, and then you modify a solution on top of that, which is the end results. So basically, if you have, let's say, a lot of chat logs, you need to label them, or there's a library that labels them for you, and then you can have the outcome you want. So in very short way, you have data, and then you have teaching. And you thought it for what you want it to be.
And so you have data, and then you have the teaching of the computer,
Yeah.
and then you have a product that delivers to the customer.
Exactly.
How would you define AI or a bot?
It's very close. So, as you said, we start with the data layer. There's a framework there. And specifically in our bank or banks, we look at there's an offensive and defensive strategy. So there's data that you look into and turn into information and insights towards fraud, AML, any risks that can come up, Basel II and what have you. And there's, on the flip side, stuff that you can enhance the experience, increase revenue, look into next best action of the customer, so you provide insights and tips around that. Now, how that happens, how the data evolves into insights, you can do different stuff. You can have stuff done manually, you can bring in an AI engine, deep learning. It all evolves across how are you looking at data. So is there enough data behind it? So do you have a big data platform that is feeding this engine? Or are you simply doing stuff on Excel?
And I have a question for the audience. How many of you are engineers? How many of you are finance people? Customer service? Okay, so most of everybody in the space is finance and a little bit of engineering, so that helps me actually, I'm not going to totally geek out about neural networks and, K means, clustering of, neural networking algorithms. So you said that you actually have technology that makes chatbots for banks. Can you give me an example of a customer experience before using a chatbot and a customer experience after using a chatbot?
Okay, so a great experience from actually the largest insurance company from Scandinavia started using us roughly a year ago, and they actually didn't provide chat support on their public pages. Because they, first of all, even though they're the largest one, they said, we're not going to afford it. We can't afford, first of all, have manpower to power it. Then the next one was, okay, if we're going to have 1 to 2 people, we need to run it, we can't run it 24/7. And we can't run it on the weekend. So again, bad customer experiences. So they started with a very simplistic 50 topic list. And then what our solution basically provides them is that it became part of the customer support agent's day-to-day work. So basically, we weren't saying how your brand should be communicating with your customers, but it was your agents and you as the customer who said, hey, I want to do this and this and this, and not the way that you needed to be an engineer or go through terminal and code stuff, but in a way that normal customer support workers were able to teach it on day-to-day basis. So what happened in the end is that in few months, it was handling 70% of all the volumes automatically.
Of all the customer support volumes?
Customer support volumes on their B2C pages.
Wow.
And then they said, hey, let's copy this. So basically, they built an organization full of Jennies, or they're called Emma, Alvar, Suvi, so they wanted to name the chatbots, of course. So it became from B2C to B2B side to intranet to extranet, and at the point that, first of all, they cut their relationship with outsourced customer support company, and they were like, because it was working so well for intranet, they said, hey, we're not going to have any manpower over here. We're like, no, just please keep someone there, teaching it continually, even though it was purely like a month old. But basically, it's the same kind of logic that these conversations happen.
And so when a customer actually goes to a website that actually has a chatbot on it, is it like, text, oh my God, I need help, and then I can actually sit there like, oh my God, my bank account, I have so much problems. Is it like teenage girls kind of chatting on their mobile phone? Or what does the experience actually look like? Is it a drop down that says, hello, can I help you? Or what does that look like?
Oh, it's conversational. So you actually have, not in a way that it's like a FAQ list or a search engine. Well, all the bots are just search engine in a way, but it's actually conversational, that it greets you, and then you can have conversations with it. And basically, I've used this, like you were saying, that, hey, just typing in there that a lot of, like, 80%, well, 50 to 80% of the support chats is more or less saying, where can I find this information? Where can I find how to log in? Or then there's like the 20 to 30% going to 80% is that it's one click. So very easy process automations. Hey, how can I set up my account? Okay, give me this information. And off we go.
And so it looks like, does it look like a search box on the web page?
No, it's a chat.
Is
Like-
it, so it's a chat window, it's a little bit of JavaScript that comes down
Yeah.
and it pops up and says,
Hello, how may
instant
I help
message
you?
me,
Yeah.
that sort
How
of
may I
stuff.
help you? Yeah.
Rami, have you guys actually been working with chatbots internally at your bank?
Of course. So we launched our, we call it Ahli bot. We still didn't give it a name. Just to make sure people understand that it's a bot.
Yeah.
To create, we didn't want to create any confusion with the name versus
Yeah.
an actual bot name. So we launched Ahli bot, I think, more than a month and a half ago. And as you mentioned, we looked into most of our conversations on our customer care center and our contact center, and most of them were informational. So our bot today doesn't do any transactional or financial transactions, especially that it's on Facebook. So it's a Facebook Messenger bot. So we didn't want to cross the line of privacy versus what data is on Facebook and your banking information and what have you. But our bot, I think today is the only bot in our region that speaks Arabic. So that was very interesting.
That's true.
And I mean, a live bot. I've seen lots of engines with banking and what have you, but ours is the only one that is live. And we also created a number of bots, as you said. So we have an internal bot for staff to, if I was in the street and I saw an issue with our ATM or whatever customer experience related issue, I can go to this bot and report on it, and the flow supports making sure this doesn't happen or it gets handled. But it was very interesting to see how people are interacting with the bot. And although we managed to get there's lots of the load that was on the call centers and contact center that was shifted there, but there was also additional behavior that came up. So we have two approaches to interact with our bot. It's a Facebook Messenger bot. You either go through a guided conversation, a guided flow, so you just click through menus and it walks you through, or you talk to it. So you have this general narrative. And there's lots of new stuff that we noticed from how people are interacting with the bot, and there are some services that we're looking into basically creating now within the bank just to make sure that we're ready to adapt to what people are asking for.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
Okay. What
So you're
technology?
wearing the moderator hat.
Yeah.
No, bring it.
So what technology do you use for basically
Not
building the
GetJenny.
chatbot?
Not GetJenny.
Yeah, but which one? One of the large ones?
One of the large ones, yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's actually that's a good point. Like that's one of the points.
But again, it's a mix. So we had to introduce more than one technology to make sure we're ready to provide this experience.
So one of the points that I just wanted to pick up that like a lot of the large enterprises, especially from Silicon Valley, are having these tools and platforms that are closed source, and there's two things. It's a risk for companies to use them because usually you can't really know what happens over there, and on the same time, you're feeding the system and the data into it. So basically, there's this getting more and more information and data about chatbots by your usage. If you don't have the platform.
That's all hosted on, we take care of that.
Okay.
So what we did is we licensed some of the APIs that enhances the experience.
Okay.
But the whole bot engine is it's on premise actually.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm curious in the audience, how many people actually have implemented chatbots or are actually using chatbots in your own place of work? Live chat? Have you guys had like telephone call trees? Like
IVRs. So
like a phone base, for English,
Yeah,
press
yeah.
1, for Arabic, press 2. Okay. I'm sorry?
IVR.
IVR? Okay. So is there an analogy between like text-based chat interactions to those phone-based systems? I mean, one's audio, one's text, but is it similar?
Well,
Sorry, go ahead.
No, fairly similar because like I describe this that it's just a channel that basically converts speech into text, and then there's a machine that you program what it does after it's speech to text. The hard part at the moment is that coming from text back to speech. So basically, we built one system through using Siri. It was fairly good, but still on the same time, the experience of using these systems affordably, at least, is not like the technology from speech to text is there, but from text to speech is not yet like very good.
Okay. One of the technologies, go ahead.
No, I just want to mention now with IVR, personally, I hate talking to a machine.
Me too.
Okay, but again, when on the flip side, when you move into chatbots and what have you, you have much more opportunities. So, if I'm on the phone and I need the location of the closest ATM, for example, I wouldn't get the information by phone in the same way that I'm getting it through a bot. It fires up the map and it automatically leads you to the closest ATM, and you're done. So again, there's this translation layer, this sound to technology, audio to text, and backwards issue that you need to figure out. And there's lots of drop in terms of the experience when because of the how the engine understands your dialects and what have you. But on the flip side, also when you're completely within a text-to-text chat, there's lots of opportunities that you can enhance the experience with.
Interesting. And so it's interesting that you're saying that the voice systems are actually feel like they're slowing progress and innovation down, and you feel that there's actually a lot more flexibility and a much better customer experience with the text-based interface.
Well, in my that's more or less that's the trend at the moment. So in the past few years, it's been a messaging war. It used to be social media sites, but now it's about messaging. Who has the messenger that has the most usage, more or less? So people are like how I see chatting is that it's not that personal. You can just send a message to your bank or whatnot, and just wait for a response. But on a phone, you're kind of like tied up to stay on the phone and have the full conversation.
Yep.
And chat is not that intrusive.
Has anybody yelled at Siri? I know I yell at my Google lady all the time. It's like, stupid lady, you gave me a wrong turn.
Did you mean that you wanted to call your father? No, I'm calling your father.
Do you guys actually get people yelling at the chatbot when it's text-based?
Yeah, so what they like to do is that, so it's called, there's a theory called uncanny valley about chatbots and how you should be pretty upfront about that this is actually a chatbot. So what this also does is that people start teasing it. And teasing hey, how far can I, take this conversation? So basically what we provide on top of the chatbot is that it analyzes the, swear words and kind of the sentiment of the conversation, and then, are you sure you want to speak to a chatbot like that, or having some kind of funny response into it? But then on the same time, what we do is that once the the limit is reached, or the chatbot doesn't know the answer, it asks, do you want to talk to an operator and transfer? So what we've seen from the data is that not a whole lot of the people actually want to talk to an operator. They just want to tease the chatbot and see how far it goes, and well, you can swear at it anyways.
So one of the things that I've done in the United States a lot is when you have a customer experience where it's a call tree and it's completely unending and you can never actually get to a live person.
Yeah.
One of the tricks I've learned is that many of them will actually very carefully recognize swear words and then automatically transfer you to an attendant.
Yeah.
So
you
if
start
you're
just-
using a call tree system and you can't figure out how to get to a person, you just start, now freaking fuck, son of a, blah, blah, blah. It's like, oh, here, let me connect you to an attendant. You sound frustrated. I've done that a bunch of times. We have 10 minutes? 5. 10. Okay, cool. Let's talk a little bit about robo-advisors. Have you guys had any experience with robo-advisors inside of your bank?
Nothing live now, but we're looking into it.
And
We're
so
exploring it.
what is a robo-advisor?
So moving from, so the whole advisory practice is all around helping you identify better opportunities on your portfolio and how you manage your money. So instead of having someone actually sit down and going through it, an engine actually does it on your behalf. And you look into, there's different scenarios, so something that triggers you to accept an auto invest or an auto saving or what have you, versus something that you put on a trigger that automatically does this on your behalf, and you just sit back and see what goes on.
So it's a computer starting to take some of the functions from wealth managers or from investment advisors out.
But it goes also beyond wealth, so it also helps you manage your account beyond wealth on a lesser value. Yeah.
So simply, it's a chatbot with the integrations to back to the software.
It's all chatbots. Let's actually open it up to the audience. You have some questions?
Hi, thank you very much. My name is Mohammed. My question is actually to Rami. Rami, would you think that like the e-payment systems that we see in the West, PayPal, its subsidiary, Venmo, and others, will really fully arrive in the region? So right now, PayPal is mostly for the most of the region is one way. You pay, but you cannot receive money and download that into your account. What are the impediments to that, and sort of like the ability to like pay via email and like the kind of ease with which we would do that in the West? Why are we not able to do that still in the region? My bank still requires me to fax them. I'll literally like a fax when I'm not in the country to be able to make a transfer.
So the question is, and just for the video, I'll repeat the question is, what are the roadblocks to having peer-to-peer payments or better payment systems in the MENA region?
So this space is on the verge of disruption, and a solution is needed in the region. The main roadblock is regulatory as we speak. So, for example, PayPal requires to have physical servers in each country that has on-premise within each country to be able to accept the money, to receive the money. And PayPal doesn't look at this region with this interest, specifically on PayPal, so and any similar technology. If I need to, so for example, now in Jordan we have a new switch called JomoPay that manages the wallets, so you can transfer peer-to-peer money and what have you. The uptake is still early, so I think we're doing something around 120,000 wallets now in Jordan, and that's a step towards figuring out how do you do payments. Now, this space is a very interesting space. If anyone has any ideas in this space, we're very much interested in investing, especially if you crack the regulatory side of the issue.
So,
Are you talking to regulators about like easing the procedures and making
It's
them more?
when you actually look into it, it's not about them being interested in blocking the technology. It's about them making sure that there are proper controls available and avoiding fraud and what have you. The real question you need to ask is if the technology vendor on a global scale is really interested in this region, and then they would be interested in investing in compliance with the regulatory requirements.
I've actually, for our fund, we've actually been taking investment online. And I'm at the point now, we've received investments from probably about 40 different countries. I'm at the point now where most of my money transfers, my wires, I would just much rather transfer somebody some Ethereum or some Bitcoin rather than actually have to go through the entire process of actually having a wire because the customer experience is so bad. The customer experience of sending someone a crypto asset is terrible. It's like 1994. Yeah. But even that is better than actually having to send an international wire. but that's been my experience.
Yeah.
Straight through processing. Yeah.
Yep.
Come on, he's. Okay. It speaks Arabic. Okay, that's
Because there are several dialects.
Yeah.
of course.
When we were actually working on something similar, we faced the problem with the language because we speak Lebanese here and it's very difficult for the bot to understand Lebanese. So how was that?
Of course. So again, Ahli FinTech is a company.
So the question is, just for the video
Yeah.
audience, is how do you actually deal with multiple Arabic dialects in chatbots?
Yeah. So the company behind the bot is Ahli FinTech, and our client is not necessarily Jordan Ahli Bank. We deal with any client interested in this technology. So this question was raised, and we looked at it. As we speak, Ahli bot speaks Jordanian dialect, and we currently have requests from GCC area, and in Jordan alone we have maybe 3 or 4 dialects. So I know this is a very tricky point. Yeah. Now, as we speak, most of the Arabic we do is basically compliant or aligned with what the Jordanian market requires. Now, the way we did it, I don't think we have an issue moving it into different dialects, but the question is, what is the next target market that we need to tackle?
And you actually have experience building bots in different languages.
Yeah,
right?
so my kind of, like our basic idea is that you start with something and you learn by usage. So the main thing about chatbots is that you don't answer wrong. So basically, we work with some of the universities here and researchers about language, how we can implement different kind of dialects into the core engine, more or less. But the basic idea is that you can teach the machine continuously, let's say, different kind of dialects. If it doesn't understand this, it takes it and stores it, and then you can check it, hey, exactly. This actually means this. So it's, like I mentioned, it's change in the day-to-day work. It's like, I think that like a lot of the large corporations from who's been building chatbots has failed on the promise because they say that there's a magic wand that fixes things. Like, we'll come there tomorrow, like with our shiny armor, and tomorrow you don't have to use any manpower anymore. But no, it's a work, day-to-day work, and a change in how people work with machines.
And it's an ongoing learning process that the machine
absolutely.
actually goes through. And we have time for one more question. So no pressure, just make it good, okay? Last question? Are we going to talk about beacons? What type of beacons? I'm not too familiar with beacons. Are you guys?
Well, I know the basic idea of kind of a location-based beacons that well, like in a context of, let's say, chatbots and conversational tools, yes, the beacons could basically, it tells you quite nicely where you are, so you can tailor the conversation through the beacons as well, because then it gets, let's say I'm in a position 1 and I see the beacon is here, so on the same time you can tailor the conversation more and more and more, like in the shopping malls or yeah.
So it essentially teaches the computer more information about the immediate geography around it. Alrighty. Guys, thank you very, very much for your time. I want to be respectful of the audience, and thank you so much.
Thank you.